Well, it's better than last year.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Landon, I'm over here on a work trip. We got the hotel Wi-Fi going, trying to do some hotspot. We'll see if we can get through this episode, but we have to kind of talk about the SEC win totals.
Yes.
FanDuel, one of our proud sponsors that we have, I believe it was on even Monday's episode. They came out with their odds, and I'll just go through the SECs. So at 9.5, you got Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama. At 8.5, you have LSU and Ole Miss. 7.5, you have Auburn, A&M, South Carolina, Missouri. 6.5, you have OU and Florida. 5.5 is Arkansas. 4.5 is Kentucky and Vanderbilt. And 3.5 is Mississippi State. So, like I said, technically an improvement if we're going by technicalities.
Yeah, it would be an improvement. And, based off of what we've talked about over the last, couple weeks with the schedule they're going to face, I mean, that's kind of where we've always landed every time. There's those 3 non-conference games that we've been saying. We feel good that they can get those 3. But where does the 4th win come from? And the 2 games we mentioned the most, Arizona State, which is very tough, team that made the playoff last year,
right,
and then Arkansas later in the year.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably talk about it on tomorrow's episode, and we'll kind of rank the different opponents. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to find. I mean, yes, you should get that 4th win, I feel like. So, like, if I was a betting person, I would definitely put that money on the over, in my opinion. We talked about the schedule. Alcorn State, you got to win. Southern Miss, got to win. Northern Illinois, you really should win, but, they beat Notre Dame on the road last year. But hopefully that's a game you win. Arizona State, college football playoff team last year, loses Cam Scattaboo, their best player. I don't know what they are next year. Then you get Arkansas on the road. Florida, I mean, I know Florida end of the year hot, but we don't know what Florida is yet. If Florida struggles early, there's some people that think Napier could still get fired, and they have a brutal schedule also, and a brutal early schedule. So he might not even be there by the time that game happens. Obviously, you get Missouri towards the end of the year. Now, Drinkwitz said it's the best, the most talented team he's had, but they lose a lot. And then you get Ole Miss to end the season, and you don't really know what Ole Miss is.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks for what these teams are going to be facing but, losing to Northern Illinois worked out pretty good for Notre Dame last year. Maybe that's the formula. Lose to Northern Illinois and then just go on a run. But
just go on a crazy run.
But yeah, there's a lot.
But
of
I do want to. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying there's just a lot of question marks with these teams are going to play. Yeah, and then you also have just that murderer's row. About almost every year we see one of those teams. They just throw a stinker out there, and if you're on your game, you can take advantage and get that big upset. So like you said, you'd take that 4 wins. I probably would too, but I don't feel confident saying where that 4th win comes from.
No, I agree. And we mentioned Arkansas. You could have an Arkansas type season next year. I mean, Arkansas went 7-6. Now, I'm not saying go 7-6, but if you look at Arkansas' schedule, it's very I'm not saying you'll go 7-6, but you could, like, if you look at Arkansas' schedule, it is from last year. It's very comparable to Mississippi State's this year. They played Oklahoma State on the road. They lose early in the year. Now, Oklahoma State ended up not being very good, but they came into that season, having a great year in 2023. They returned a lot of people. So 2024 was looking really positive. And that's very similar to Arizona State. That's the comp there. Well, then they went on a brutal stretch of playing number 24 A&M, number 4 Tennessee, number 8 LSU. They did play Mississippi State, but then they played number 19 Ole Miss, number 3 Texas, played Louisiana Tech, but number 24 Missouri. And like you said, now they lost against all those ranked teams. Now, a lot of them were close, or a couple of them were close, except for one, and that's where you talked about teams can lay stinkers. Number 4 Tennessee laid a stinker, and they beat them 19-14, which got them to bowl eligibility.
True. And that Arkansas team kind of has the formula that we've talked about, how Mississippi State can be good this year. They had the offense that put up a lot of points, and then they had Landon Jackson, who could be kind of that possession wrecker on the defense. So if you find either maybe it's a ball hawk in the secondary or one of these new defensive linemen, kind of takes over a little bit, there's your guy that can end some possessions for the other team. You put up a lot of points. 4 wins becomes a lot easier when you have that formula going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you just said, if you can get that offense rolling, and we talked about the defense, it has to be better. You can't be in the hundreds in defense, and definitely not in the SEC, and definitely not with the schedule Mississippi State has. You do that, you're not winning many games at all. But I feel like they really attack the defense. But the big thing is, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts, whatever your coach excels at, that side of the football has to show the improvement every year. That side of the football has to get to that very good to elite level, or whatever his track record is. If his track record is elite offenses, it needs to be an elite offense. At some point, I'm not saying in year 2, but it needs to start showing it's going to be an elite offense. So, we mentioned Oklahoma in the record. Oklahoma was a terrible defense in Venable's first year. They had been a terrible defense for like a decade. Terrible defense in his first year. Second year, they jumped to like 70s or 80s, which was a big jump, but still not a great one. But then last year, they were number 19 in the country. So the third year. So that's what I'm saying. The second year for Levy doesn't have to be an elite offense. It just has to make the big jump, and then the elite offenses better come after that.
Right. You need whatever your coach excels at to be elite, and the other side of the ball to be at least average. That's kind of what you're hoping for. And if you get this defense even just close to like slightly below average instead of what we watched on the field last year, that's a huge jump. And they have added a lot of pieces, especially in the defensive front 7, a lot of new faces down there, a couple in the secondary. We've talked about some people that may be coming in the secondary next year. I mean, they know that they're aware that they have to address the defense. And hopefully we see some of that start to take shape on the field next year, or it's going to be a lot of high-scoring games, and you hope you come out on top on some of them.
Yeah, you need to – I think the defense needs to be in that 70-80 range, and then the offense has to be top 50. And those are two big jumps, especially for the defense. But that's what you have to see if you want to be a team that wins 4, 5, 6 games, I think, with the schedule you have, which is crazy to say you could be a top 50 offense and a top 80 defense and still only get 4 wins. But with the schedule you have, that's the reality.
Yeah, it really is. And Mike, we've talked about this so many times. There's those 3 wins are just sitting there, but that 4th one, you want to say, like, I'm sitting here and I want to be like, yeah, they're going to win 4 or 5 games, but I don't know who those 4 or 5 wins are.
You're right.
I mean, Arizona State, they're losing Scatterby, but they're bringing back a lot of that team. The quarterback was young. The coaching staff stayed very much in place. And so they might be better than last year, which is crazy to say for a team that made the college football playoff and lost their best player. But so that might not be an easy one. The Arkansas game, if they continue the upward trajectory with Petrino now there, that gets better. But, it's a whole – I don't know. Like I said, I want to say they're going to win 4 games, but I don't know where that 4th one is.
And I'm not a big, like, must-win person. Like, I remember a lot of people last year before the year were like, oh, you have to beat Tennessee. Like, they thought Tennessee was going to be this average SEC team. Well, Tennessee ended up being a playoff team, so you just don't know. But it feels like those 3 games are must-wins because of what you said about the 4th win. You lose one of those, now you're trying to find a 3rd win against one of these teams, and that's how crazy it is. But we got a lot more months before we have to really.
We have a lot of time to try to find that 4th win.
Yeah. Maybe we can figure it out. Maybe some spring portal helps us out or something.
Talk ourselves into it at least by September.
Right. All right. Well, coming up next, we got to talk about Braylon Burnside. We've mentioned a little bit, but he's switching to defense. We'll go into depth on that. That's coming up next. All right, well, ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building a wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can also use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. And imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Gametime Picks curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You also have the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It also gives you a peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right. So we teased it coming into the break. Braylon Burnside was a highly touted wide receiver. He was actually a 4-star on multiple sites, 3-star and on 3, but overall 4-star. Was even a top 200 prospect, excuse me, on ESPN and top 150 on Rivals. But it was announced he's going to actually be moving to safety, and this kind of goes back to what we said about the defense needing a lot of help. But Landon, you also read something interesting. It's from On3, a little Q&A about his switch. What all did you find out?
Well, I mean, at least on 24/7, he was listed as an athlete coming out, and originally the plan was for him to play exclusively wide receiver, but he played some safety in high school, and that's where he's moving back. And, they asked him, what's it been like so far? He's like, it's been pretty tough, just transitioning from offense straight to defense, trying to learn the playbook, but it's been pretty good. I'm playing fast and playing ball like I know. And anytime you have someone, either it's at a new level, new school, new position, you want to hear that someone's playing fast.
Right.
Because I can't remember what coach it was. I want to say it was Mike Tice that said this. If you're going to make a mistake, make it fast. So,
yeah.
If he's playing fast, he's confident in what he's doing. You don't want someone out there guessing. Right. And just he still will play some on offense, but, it's more of a package thing. Bring him in for a couple type plays. But, if he's that good of an athlete that you're ready to move him to the secondary, that could be a big, long-term boost for them.
Right. And he's a pretty big safety. I mean, he's not super tall, but at 6 foot, on 3 lists him at 6.5 feet, so maybe about 6'1", 200 pounds. He played in 11 games last year, made his college debut against Eastern Kentucky. He only had 1 catch for -6 yards, but was a key player on special teams and had four tackles. He had 2 tackles against Tennessee, also 2 tackles against Missouri. So this could be a big move. And the one thing I will say, this kind of goes for these kind of players in general. In the era of transfer portal, you don't see these kind of players do this anymore. No. You see them, I want to be a receiver. You're insulting me by trying to get me to switch. I'm leaving. Or, I want to switch to safety, but I'm going to go do it somewhere else because I don't like how you handled me at wide receiver, whatever it is. But this also goes back, and this will be something that I emphasize quite a bit when we're doing podcasts and recruiting. This is why you recruit guys that really love the school and are local kids. I mean, he played at Starkville High School.
Yeah.
So he's literally in your city. So this is a guy that probably grew up as a Mississippi State fan. I don't know that for sure, but I mean, he grew up in your city. I'm sure he's got some kind of loyalties to Mississippi State. And for after your first season, you were, again, a 4-star recruit, and you're going to a coach who's a big offensive coach. And so you're probably going to put up a lot of numbers and say, for the betterment of the team, it's better for me to move to safety. That I respect that so much because like I said, you don't see that this day and age.
No, you don't. And another on that topic, an interesting thing that they asked him, like, what do you feel you've learned playing offense that you can use on defense? He's like, to be able to read the whole defense, not just the offense, but you have a quarterback on defense as well, telling everybody where to go when you're at safety. So, I mean, and we don't see it that often, especially not now. I mean, a notable one that jumps to mind is that played secondary is Trayvon Diggs, and he obviously made a great jump. Greg Rousseau, a more recent one, but he was such a massive human, they moved him to defensive end. So I mean, you don't see very many highly rated guys switch to the other side of the ball. But when they do, if they commit to it, it tends to work out very well for that player and the program.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll see like a defensive lineman move to offensive line or vice versa. Like a tight end move to tackle because he's a little heavy, but he's super athletic. So you'll see that every now and then, but you don't see these big switches like this very often. You especially don't, like I said, see them anymore. Also, it's interesting that it was after his freshman year too. It wasn't like I was a true freshman. Of course, I'm not going to play as much. But next year's my year. I'm going to improve, and I'm going to be a receiver. This must have been something that was really probably tugging on his heart maybe all year, possibly making the switch. Obviously knew the defense was struggling. Maybe they came to him and was like, hey, we're kind of interested in you at this spot because we need help. Or maybe he came to them and said, hey, the wide receiver, does he talk about that in the Q&A?
He does. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You screwed it up great. He's like, what they asked, was it mutual? And he's like, it's just being a leader on the team. Coming in, bringing in guys that we know and showing them the way around. So, I mean, it's just a little bit of what you said, good for the team. He was probably like, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. And then they ask if he ever picked up the wrong jersey and tried to go line up on offense. He's like, no, sir, they make sure I have the right one.
Right. So it sounds like it might have been one of those that, we talked about the transfer portal additions at wide receiver. The people they have coming back at wide receiver. And so it might have been one of those that he's just like, hey, this side needs me more. Or maybe it was like, because he didn't really say for sure that he came to it, but it might have been them saying, hey, we have a lot of depth at receiver. We don't have as much depth here. Would you consider? If not, no worries. We'll keep you here. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And again, those are the guys you respect. Those are the guys you want on your team. You want 11 of those on offense and defense.
Exactly. And especially when they ask him what his playing style is at safety, and all he said was physical. That's all I can give you. Like that.
That's what you want to see.
That's what you want, that attitude with that kind of play style. And I mean, he's a very athletic guy. So him back there, once he gets comfortable, they might have found like the difference maker in the secondary that we've been talking about. They kind of need if they're going to turn the ball over a little bit and give this high-powered offense that we hope shows up a few more possessions.
And I can't remember where it was. I would love to give them credit, but I think I did see that they were planning on using him at receiver some plays here and there. So
they're going to have a few packages for him. And then just to kind of wrap up him, they asked Braylon Lanier, how is Burnside adjusting? And he said, Stonk is amazing. Stonk is one of those guys that's just natural, like a football player. You can put him anywhere, and Stonk is going to shine. So hopefully.
Yeah. And that's what it sounds like. So. All right. Well, coming up next, we told you yesterday we were in a positive segment, top dog of the week. We'll get into the negatives tomorrow. Well, don't worry. We're getting into the negatives. We got to talk about the baseball team. I mean, we tried to push this off. We can't push it off anymore. We got to talk about the baseball team. That's coming up next.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of more than 200,000 parts from more than 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code HS5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown. Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup. Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free. It's your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jaron. That's Landon. Follow us on social media. There's our ads for X. We're also on Locked On Podcast on YouTube. We're also on X, Instagram, TikTok. We're all over there. So check us out there. All right, Landon, final segment. We got to unfortunately end on a sour note. The baseball team continues to struggle. We kind of talked about it. What was that, last week? And we talked about how the LSU series was big. And it, I will say this in their defense, it's not an easy opening to SEC play. You played 3 borderline top 10 teams. Texas was number 11, Oklahoma was 10, and LSU was 8. And 2 of those series, I believe, 2 of those were on the road. And you come out 1-8, which Landon and I tried to do some digging on that to see when was the worst start, if that was the worst start or how far away it was. We did find, what was it, 1946? They started 0-12.
The whole season was 0-12. They only played 12 SEC games, and so it's better than that.
Yes, so
that's about as positive as we can get. Right?
It's like the worst start in, what would that be? Almost 80 years.
It's World War II.
Yeah. So things are not looking great now. But we kind of talked about Chris Lemonis's record in the SEC play since the national title season in 2022, and it just got 3 games worse. Yeah. We also talked about in the last podcast, because I think the most frustrating thing about the LSU series was the first game you were in it, you lose 8-6. Second game, you're in it, you lose 2-1. Third game, at least you got blown out and it was 17-8. But I enjoyed that game more because at least my heart wasn't broken because the game was close.
True. And I have one little other positive nugget. This was an LSU fan commented on our old video about Lemonis's job, and he said there's a lot of fight in your team. So we have that.
Which there is. I will say they don't look like, and that's one thing that you can usually tell from a team if it's time to fire a coach. Outside of obviously record and stuff, I'm just saying you can tell sometimes from a team if it's time to fire because they
looks like the team's given up.
Yeah, and they have it. They keep playing hard for them.
They're playing hard, and Pico Cone can't do it by himself. He's trying though. I mean, the one game to hold that LSU team to 2 runs on 2 solo home runs. It's not even like he gave up a big inning. He gave up more hits, but 2 hits essentially did all the damage. Struck out, was it 6 or 8 off the top of my head? I know it was a curved number like that. But yeah, another great start for him. He just keeps dealing, but he needs another pitcher to step up and keep a team in the game. And, more guys get hot because it's just they put enough together to give you hope, and then it just falls apart.
Well, and like you said, so the first game they score 6 runs. The last game they score 8 runs. But, of course, the one game they hold in a 2 runs, they score 1 run. So it looked like it was, if they would have just had a average game based off of that 3-game series, they're going to win that game too. And if you go, again, I know 1-2 is not a great record, but when you're playing a top 10 team on the road, if you get 1, that's a good series for you. Especially when you're struggling right now.
Yeah, and it would have been. And the guy who went up against Pico, the starter for LSU, not a very good starter. ERA is around 4, first year, playing at a higher level. So that's the guy, especially when he's going against your ace, that's the game you have to win. I mean, if you can get, I mean, you're going to get blown out occasionally. That just happens. That's the nature of baseball, but you can't let that happen. And I feel like I'm just just begging them, like, give someone else some help. But yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks, but this is the part of the schedule that they might be able to string a couple wins together. They're going to have Memphis tonight, which, Memphis has a losing record. That midweek game, you have to win that one. And then this weekend, South Carolina, who is not one of these elite teams in the SEC. They're kind of down toward the bottom. You have to, at least take 2 from them, if not get a sweep, to really feel good about yourself and move in the right direction.
Yeah, you have to turn things around 100%. And like you said, this is a great week to do it. You get 4 very winnable games against the opponents. Worst case, you have to go 3-1. You just have to in this 4-game series, or not series, but set.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to end on a positive note, though. All right. Let me have this one. Congratulations to Jake Mangum for making his MLB debut.
Yes.
Another, I believe I had the number right there, 71st former Bulldog to make the MLB. So congrats to you on making it to the show. We're ending positive.
Yeah, Bulldog legend right there. But all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. April is here now, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron, that's Landon. Check us out on our social media. Check out my writing on Athlon Sports. A lot of SEC writing right now for college football, a lot of college basketball, things like that. Sorry for the hotel Wi-Fi. It was kind of spotty. We'll be back tomorrow for Wednesday. We'll be back regular for Wednesday. So hopefully we won't have this spotty internet. So apologize for that. It was a work trip. Couldn't get out of it. But follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on X. Like, share, subscribe. Send us to all your friends. We definitely appreciate it. But until next time, Hail State.